Hi friends, in this video, we're going to talk about service quality. This is a very important concept that has been in discussion since 1989 per se. One of the first people to introduce this concept, they are Lillian and Rangaswamy from Penn State University. Ever since they first introduced in '89, every organization, like literally every organization which assesses or evaluates their services or service component in their business uses this framework. So what this means is a service quality of a firm, it is tested at each service encounter. Now the perspective is, if consumers perceive that the service that they are getting is not up to the best quality, then they would switch. And some of the switching factors, as you can see in the slide, are the pricing, the inconvenience, core service failure, service encounter failures, response to failure, competition, ethical problems involved. They're all factors per se. But technically speaking, from a services marketing perspective, the service components like the core service failure, encounter failure, response to service failure are of utmost importance. Uh, a service failure or less evaluation of service quality can happen with as small of an incident like two employees are talking to each other when the customer is waiting. Like the example I gave in the previous video about the McDonald's, the person was rude, so suddenly my whole evaluation of the service quality I got from the organization is less. Another reason why this service quality concept is in foray is it has multiple components. It is just not one. It's just not one question asking them, "Hey, how satisfied are you with the service?" Instead, they're gonna ask about multiple aspects. The reason being, going back to my example of McDonald's again, I'm not happy with the employee, but I'm okay with the service scape, with the service environment. I'm okay with the order speed or delivery of food from order to delivery. All these things I'm happy. So if an organization evaluates a service on multiple components, then they will have a chance to improve their service. Now, coming to the serve qual model, uh, this is called service quality model. And so there are five gaps in service quality models. Different books write differently, but these are the main five gaps. So if you look at on the top, word of mouth communications, personal needs, and past experience, using through these aspects, uh, through our learnings from the market, like learnings from our friends, our newspaper readings, our experiences, personal needs, and past experience from the same restaurant, we have an expectation in our mind, and then we have an expected service in our mind. Then we perceive something, right? Hey, I think based on the new setup of the restaurant, or based on what we think of them now compared to in the past, I think this is what they're going to provide. So the difference between a expected service and service perceived service is gap number five. Now, after the perceived service, the service delivery, actual delivery per se. If it is different, then it's a problem. And the delivery, the gap between the actual delivery of the service to external communications is gap number four. And then the gap between the translation of perceptions into service quality expectation. So, what this means is the perceptions, uh, the, the, the perceptions of consumers of the service, and if it's converted into the specific specifications to the actual delivery, that gap is gap number three. And management perceptions of consumer expectations. And now this is coming to the company side. So on the top half is more on the consumer side, and the bottom half is more on the marketer side. So on the if the management thinks that, hey, this is what we think that consumers are expected from the service, and if there is a gap between that perception of what customer expectation is and what actually is a customer expectation, that's the big gap. That's a gap number one. So for all these areas, the two critical aspects is gap number one and gap number 4 and 3. Okay, in that order. Now, how do we improve service quality? Now, improving service quality is it's very intuitive. This is nothing rocket science here. Now, forget about whatever is in the slide. Now, you think about as a service manager or a manager of a restaurant, how do you improve service quality, or how do you improve the evaluation of customers? You know, Customer evaluation of service quality. You listen to them. You provide them reliable service. You be courteous. The basic fundamentals of service, like a smile, service with a smile, service design. The design is nothing but the speed of delivery, speed of ordering, things like that. Recovery of any issues. Surprising the customers with a surprise present or free drink or things like that. Fair play, which is best, like the highest value of the highest value to provide for the price paid. The teamwork. Everybody in the organization has to be acting like internal customer, and thus forth. Everybody is kind of an owner of the business, and they provide utmost service. Employee research. Frequently, the organization need to involve in employee research, which is service environment, service orientation of the employees. I actually have multiple papers on service orientation and things like that. And every time it's a surprise to me that different industries have different orientations in their organization. And then the servant leadership, which pretty much is, I would say the last one is more of an overhype, because that thing talks about like customer is the god, customer is the king, so provide them whatever they want. I mean, in the past, I think it makes sense in the 89s and the 90s when it was initially introduced. But now, what are you going to do if the customer is a troublesome customer, over demanding customer, rude customer? You need to get rid of them. So I don't believe in the servant leadership strategy of improving service quality, but as the textbook says, it's that. Now, the next slide is about serve call scale. Remember in the previous video, when we were talking about characteristics of services, I did talk about that, there are certain aspects that they can be measured, and these are all the 5 main service quality dimensions. And these are the questions that are being used since '89 to evaluate customers, to evaluate service quality in a service setting. Okay, over and out.